Let's turn to the situation next between the U.S. and Iran. After stepping back from a military confrontation, the Trump administration is expecting today to bring in new sanctions. In Washington, Lindsay Duncombe picks up the story for us today. And Lindsay, good to see you. We're getting reports out of Iran saying the country is dealing with surging inflation, rising unemployment, already dire economic situation and circumstances. How much more can the U.S. tighten the screws?
Well, they could tighten them even further. There's industries such as shipping and ports that could be targeted with these sanctions today. Another thing that we could see is that companies doing business with Iran from outside of the country, including banks and insurance companies, could also face the wrath of U.S. sanctions. And the goal here is what the American administration has referred to as maximum pressure. And the goal, or the strategy, is to get oil imports from Iran, really the engine of the economy, down to zero. And that would really make the Iranians come to the table, not just in an effort of negotiation when it comes to the nuclear program, but in a surrender to the Trump administration's demands. That's not the only tactic in this escalation that we're seeing from the United States. Over the weekend, U.S. media reported that there was cyber attacks on Iranian intelligence initiated by the United States. And the message when it comes to military action, as various Trump administration cabinet members and officials were speaking over the weekend, is that military action does remain an option on the table.
The Trump administration isn't just trying to cut off the economy, it's also trying to isolate the country diplomatically, internationally. On that point, Lindsay, what do we watch for?
Certainly the European nations are not on board. European nations, China, Russia, they all think that these sanctions aren't a great idea. And from Europe, what we're expecting to see as we lead up to the G20 is continued strategizing on how this situation could be de-escalated. Where the Trump administration does have support is in the Gulf. And today we see Mike Pompeo, the Secretary of State, going to Saudi Arabia, meeting with the king, with the crown prince, and really in his, before he left to that mission there, he said that his goal was to have a global coalition against Iran. Here's more of what he said.
First stops will be in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates, two great allies in the challenge that Iran presents, and we'll be talking with them about how to make sure that we are all strategically aligned and how we can build out a global coalition. A coalition not only throughout the Gulf states, but in Asia and in Europe.
And the United States is also taking its message in terms of a need for countries to be together against Iran to the UN Security Council today, Heather. They will be presenting evidence of what the drone attack that was shot down and really making their case, sharing some intelligence there with other nations.
All right, Lindsay, thanks so much. Lindsay in our bureau in Washington.